Welcome to Screen Scan. Today, we will recap the 2019 movie, The Hustle. The movie tells the story of two female con artists, Penny Rust, played by Rebel Wilson, and Josephine Chesterfield, played by Anne Hathaway, who, despite their contrasting styles, end up competing and eventually collaborating in a series of high-stakes scams. The film opens with a man preparing to meet a woman he found online named Madison. Instead, Penny arrives, pretending to be Madison. The man is initially convinced, but Penny soon confesses that she's actually Madison's sister. She then explains why Madison couldn't make it, ultimately persuading him to give her money to help her sister recover from a fabricated plastic surgery disaster. Just as the man is about to hand over the money, authorities appear, identifying Penny as the fake tit job bitch. Penny quickly flees to avoid arrest, establishing her character as a low-level con artist, but effective small-time hustler. In the next scene, set in a casino, a man in his 50s is shown out of funds to continue his game. Desperate, he offers his wife's diamond bracelet as collateral. However, the dealer declines, hinting at a rumor that the man has been selling his wife's jewelry. Left with no other choice, the man walks away and heads to another part of the casino, where he orders a whiskey and meets Josephine. Intrigued by her, he approaches her, and she introduces herself as Janet. The two engage in casual conversation, during which he shows her the bracelet, now claiming it was his mother's and that he needs to sell it. He places it in Josephine's hands, as though offering it for sale. The man tries to charm Josephine, but an inspector suddenly appears, accusing her of stealing chips from an elderly guest standing nearby. The man initially defends her, but the inspector convinces him of Josephine's alleged theft. Reluctantly, Josephine hands the chips back to the elderly man. As she returns the bracelet to the man, the camera focuses on her hands, hinting that she might have swapped it. Josephine then leaves with the inspector. As they walk away, they exchange knowing glances and look back briefly. Josephine reveals the real bracelet in her hand, implying that the man now holds a fake. It's later revealed that the elderly man, Albert, and the inspector, Bridget, are actually Josephine's accomplices, as she discreetly hands them each a cut of her earnings. This scene showcases Josephine as a sophisticated, high-class con artist. Josephine is enjoying a solo journey on a train when she overhears Penny talking with a man about his sister. Intrigued, Josephine observes Penny's amateurish tactics for deceiving someone, finding them somewhat simplistic yet undeniably fascinating. Penny soon joins Josephine in her cabin, where Josephine admits that she overheard Penny's conversation in the dining area. Trusting her instincts, Penny reveals that she is indeed a con artist and that she lied to the man she was speaking with. The two women formally introduce themselves, sensing an understanding between them. During their conversation, Penny mentions a woman named Medusa, whom she believes to be at the pinnacle of their industry, highlighting the competitive nature of their work. Josephine asks Penny where she plans to go next, to which Penny replies that she is heading to Beaumont-sur-Mer, a wealthy town on the Riviera, to swindle rich men. However, Josephine informs her that she actually lives there and implies that Penny may have received misinformation about the local men. This revelation makes Josephine feel as though she has found a potential rival who could interfere with her schemes. When the train arrives in Beaumont-sur-Mer, Josephine creates a distraction to lead Penny to Portofino instead. Initially, Josephine thinks this is a clever move to kick off a rival. However, the next morning, she spots Penny again in Beaumont-sur-Mer, accompanied by the man she was supposed to meet. Realizing her plan has backfired, Josephine discreetly signals to Bridget, who understands immediately and leaves Josephine to observe Penny from a distance. In the next scene, Bridget is with the man who was recently with Penny, observing her from a distance. They watch as Penny spends the money he gave her, which she had claimed was intended for her sister, a story she frequently uses to deceive wealthy men. It appears that Bridget has informed the man about Penny's true intentions. She then asks him if he wants to press charges against her, but he simply replies with a firm no. After being captured, Penny finds herself in a cell with Bridget as her guard. Penny mentions to Bridget that she knows someone local, though she initially struggles to remember her name. Bridget then suggests Josephine, and Penny confirms that's who she meant, believing she might be able to help her. Consequently, they call Josephine to assist in securing Penny's release. When Josephine arrives, she warns Penny not to return to Beaumont-sur-Mer. Penny agrees, and Josephine drives her to the airport. As Penny's plane takes off, a man confronts her in the lavatory, asking about Josephine and revealing that she stole a diamond bracelet from him. Sensing something suspicious about Josephine, Penny denies any connection to her. Josephine's calm life is soon disrupted when Penny reappears. Penny even calls Josephine as Medusa, but Josephine rebuffs the title. When Josephine asks what Penny wants, she responds that she wishes to learn from her, aspiring to become as skilled and wealthy. Although hesitant at first, Josephine agrees, launching a funny training montage that highlights their contrasting styles. The montage begins in Josephine's lavish apartment, where she introduces Penny to the world of high society. Josephine even trains Penny in basic self-defense, emphasizing its importance in their line of work. Although Penny struggles to keep up at first, her determination shines through as she perseveres. With practice and effort, she gradually starts to grasp the techniques. In the end, Josephine decides that Penny is ready for their upcoming cons. Their con, inspired by The Lord of the Rings, begins when Josephine targets a wealthy man, Howard Bacon, who soon proposes to her. Initially, Josephine feigns humility, claiming she doesn't deserve him because he is affluent while she is broke, only able to boast about being 63rd in line to the British throne. Unfazed, Howard insists she is worthy, so Josephine accepts his proposal and introduces her sister, Hortense, actually Penny, whom she claims she can't abandon. Penny throws a dramatic tantrum, visibly unsettling Howard. Josephine reassures him, urging him to promise to care for Hortense if anything happens to her. As she mentions an archaic practice, prima nocta, Howard grows increasingly disturbed, ultimately calling off the wedding. Enraged, he tells her to keep the ring and storms off, leaving Josephine and Penny to share a triumphant smile as their plan unfolds perfectly. This playful dynamic continues as they persist with their con, where Josephine gets engaged to another wealthy suitor. However, after meeting Hortense, the man swiftly decides to call off the wedding, leaving both women feeling victorious while they appear completely traumatized. However, this method didn't last long when Josephine refused to give Penny any money despite her role in their successful con. Josephine insists that Penny is still a student and that students shouldn't earn wages until they graduate. Penny finds this reasoning absurd, arguing that without her contributions, Josephine wouldn't have made that money at all. Their conflicting views lead to a breakdown in their partnership, ultimately causing them to part ways as a team. When Josephine is out again, working her charm on an elderly wealthy man, Penny suddenly appears, stealing her spotlight in an instant. A confrontation ensues as Penny expresses her determination to remain in the con game, while Josephine is unwilling to allow her to compete in her territory. In a moment of inspiration, Josephine suggests they settle their rivalry with a friendly wager. The loser must leave for good. Penny agrees, and they set the terms. Whomever can extract a specified sum from their target first will be the winner. They soon discover their target, a man named Thomas Westerberg, played by Alex Sharp, who is an inventor and a burgeoning technology billionaire. With their sights set on him, they decide to make Thomas their next mark. Josephine makes the first move by approaching Thomas at the roulette table, adopting a shy and innocent persona in hopes of attracting his interest. However, her plan is disrupted when Penny enters the scene and immediately captures Thomas's attention, especially after she pretends to be blind. Thomas, who has a close bond with his blind grandmother, is instantly sympathetic. Penny joins a game at the roulette table but dramatically loses, causing her to leave in dismay. Thomas, feeling compelled to help, follows her, leaving Josephine frustrated by his lack of interest in her. As they talk, Penny shares a fabricated story, explaining that the game was her last chance to win enough money for her non-existent sister, now in need of cleft palate surgery. Curious, Thomas asks Penny about her own condition. She explains that she needs surgery to regain her sight, which will cost $500,000. She further praises her doctor, Dr. Schaffhausen, as a highly skilled specialist worth every penny. Meanwhile, the camera cuts to Bridget, who is eavesdropping on their conversation. She later informs Josephine that Penny is using her tricks, prompting Josephine to start adopting some of Penny's methods in return. Penny and Thomas continue bonding, with Thomas eventually opening up about the app he invented and sharing why he's there. Their connection inspires Thomas to suggest meeting her doctor, Dr. Schaffhausen, a figure Penny had entirely fabricated. To her shock, Thomas quickly discovers that a real Dr. Schaffhausen is in the hotel. When Thomas spots a photo of the supposed Dr. Schaffhausen, he mistakenly approaches a stranger, only to soon be introduced to the real Dr. Schaffhausen, who is actually Josephine. Thrilled at the chance to help Penny, he insists that Dr. Schaffhausen see her right away. Penny is caught off guard when she unexpectedly encounters Josephine as Dr. Schaffhausen. Playing along, Josephine initiates a medical examination, putting Penny through a series of amusing tests for a supposed eye condition, each aimed at keeping up the ruse. As the testing continues, Josephine takes the opportunity to have some one-on-one time with Thomas, strategically trying to win his trust and keep him focused on her. However, despite her efforts to charm him, it becomes increasingly evident that Thomas is solely captivated by Penny. Eager to fund Penny's eye surgery, Thomas insists on paying Dr. Schaffhausen directly, but Penny tries to persuade him to give her the money instead. In their conversation, Penny learns that helping her would leave Thomas nearly broke, though he assures her he'll recover financially with his grandmother's help and future inventions. Feeling a pang of guilt, Penny tells Josephine she wants to call off the bet, believing they've gone too far. Josephine refuses, insisting their game isn't over. Penny also admits she thinks Thomas is in love with her. They shift their focus, deciding to win their bet without targeting his fortune. That evening, Josephine drops by Thomas's hotel, attempting to seduce him, but her efforts fall flat. The next morning, as Penny prepares for her departure, Thomas stops by to say goodbye. He reveals that his investors are flying him back home and confides that meeting her has been the best part of his trip. Just as he starts to leave, Penny, overwhelmed by her feelings, rushes to stop him but accidentally trips, and in that moment, she finally pretends to see him for the very first time. When Thomas mentions that the funds meant for Dr. Schaffhausen's services were put to good use, Penny realizes he has indeed covered the cost of her supposed treatment. Guilt washes over her as she grapples with the situation. Feeling responsible for his financial strain, she offers to pay him back with her remaining funds, believing he has gone broke paying for her fictitious therapy. However, Thomas insists on refusing her payment, leading to a playful back and forth as they each attempt to send money to the other via their mobile phones. Ultimately, the funds end up in Penny's account. After Thomas's plane takes off, Josephine storms in, livid and accusing him of robbing her following her failed seduction attempt. Penny, initially skeptical of Josephine's claims, is taken by surprise when her phone rings with a message from Thomas. As they read his text, they learn that he, too, is a con artist running his own scheme. To their astonishment, he reveals that the real Medusa is actually his grandmother. A wave of shock and betrayal washes over Penny as she realizes that Thomas hasn't refunded her money after all. Both women stand in disbelief, caught off guard by his unexpected confession. As the story nears its conclusion, Josephine allows Penny to stay for 2 weeks, during which they reconcile and strengthen their bond. In a gesture of goodwill, Josephine hands Penny the money she earned from their Lord of the Rings con, acknowledging her contributions and solidifying their renewed partnership. Thomas reunites with the two women and proposes an idea. Instead of competing against one another, they should join forces. He recognizes the potential in their contrasting skills, Penny's bold, unconventional approach and Josephine's polished high society finesse. Realizing they work better as a team than as rivals, the women eagerly agree to the partnership. Embracing their new alliance, they set the stage for future cons as a trio. The film concludes with the three of them strolling away, united in their shared talents and ready for their next adventure. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more exciting content. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.